So you're walking through life and boom, there's the stress. There's the unexpected, unpredictable parts that make life. Like we've talked about in other videos, life happens. It could be like this last weekend, I had some car trouble, totally unexpected, had to kind of pivot and move things around. Or it could be much larger, right? I mean, it could be something like the pandemic we've walked through for the last number of years. Last week, we started this discussion about stress, how we can look at different stressors instead of seeing them as threats, maybe see them as more as opportunities or challenges. Today, I want to continue that discussion. Who do we become once we come through more of a stressful situation or an area in life where we're sort of facing that challenge or opportunity? Who do we become as we come out the other side? I first heard the term anti-fragile a couple of years ago at a conference. It just kind of stuck with me because it was a little bit different. There was some sort of meaning there that I really found really interesting, and it wrapped up an idea for me. It's a word that was actually sort of defined by a gentleman by the name of Nassim Taleb. I'm probably saying his name wrong. I apologize. He's written a number of books, including a book on this idea of being anti-fragile. He was looking at the idea of fragility and the word fragile and asking himself the question, what's the opposite of fragile? He talked about it as who we become as we go through challenging things or when we face stress, basically when things are out of order. And he looked at it and talked about it as being on a spectrum. So you look at it on one side of the spectrum, you've got this idea of being fragile, which is not what we want. You don't want to go through a stressful situation or a difficult, challenging time or something where maybe you were wrong and come out and actually be broken. So it's such that it overwhelms you. Maybe that's burnout or whatever that looks like for you, right? But he said, Nassim talks about the idea of most people when they said, well, what's not fragile? What would you say? And people would come back with terms like, I want to be more resilient. I want to be more robust. I want to be stronger. I want to be able to weather the storm. I like that idea. I think that's great, but that's not really the opposite of fragility, because if fragility is breaking you and being robust and resilient or strong is in the middle, I think about robust and resilient and I look at it as being like a building standing in the wind, right? I'm very strong. I'm going to be here through the wind, through the challenge, and I'm also going to be standing at the end of it, but very much still the same building. But if we're anti-fragile, that means we actually get stronger. And I love that idea that when we actually walk through something, when you walk through something in your life that challenges you or you realize that you were wrong, that you actually come out the other side not just having come through it, but actually stronger. Like it's actually made you a stronger person. You've had personal growth. You've developed through this challenge. Maybe your capacity has increased. You've developed skill set, whatever it is, but we haven't just come through it the same or broken. We're coming through it stronger. I'm a big believer that God wants you to be personally growing. I'm a big believer that God wants you to be getting stronger in the areas and the strengths and gifts and talents that He's given you. Well, how do we grow in strength and talents and abilities that God's given us? We've got to go through challenges, different maybe stressors in life that are going to push you to actually get better. We get better through practice. We get better through trying things and making mistakes. But this idea of being anti-fragile is going to equip you to get better at the gifts and skills and talents that God's given you so that you can move towards, fulfilling His purpose for your life. And so when I look at personal growth, I sort of see it as this circle, because as you grow as a person, that means all your gifts, skills, talents, and your ability to serve God's kingdom grows as well. I get really excited about that because I know that as you're being equipped, that means you're now going to be able to go out there and do more. God's going to be able to do more in and through you as you walk through daily life. So becoming anti-fragile obviously is something that takes time. It's not an overnight thing. The human body is an excellent example of this. You go to the gym and you put your body through a stressful situation, you actually can grow and become stronger. I think nature does this sort of idea of anti-fragility. It does it naturally. I think about my kids. I'm an introvert and I'm really an indoor person, but my kids love to be outside and I see them, they're covered in dirt, right? And you want them to get out there and you want them to get their hands dirty because they need to be able to build their immunity, right? They need to be able to get stronger. If I keep my kids in a bubble, I never let them out, never let them interact with anybody, never allow them to be in situations where they might get sick or might hurt themselves or make a mistake, then I'm actually not equipping them as a father. I'm not actually helping them. It's the same thing if I try and shelter them too much from failing or making, mistakes, learning to ride a bike on two wheels. I know they're going to fall down. I know that's going to happen, right? But if I never let them do that, they never learn to ride the bike. And obviously we're parents. We're going to continue to want to watch over them. I want what's best for my children. But if I don't actually equip them to learn and grow through failures, learn and grow through different stressful situations that they're going to come through, then I'm not properly equipping them as a parent. And I think God wants the exact same thing for you. He looks at us and he says, here, I've given you these gifts, skills, talents, and abilities. You might not know how to use them yet. right? But here's some situations that you're going to get to walk through that's going to allow you to learn how to use them. It's going to equip you to learn how to use them if we can see them that way. I think sometimes you and I, we see things and we're like, man, that was a roadblock. I thought I was headed towards this goal or purpose, and then this happened. What if the roadblock that God has put in your life or in my life that we see as slowing us down from maybe what God's purpose was is actually there, and it's not a roadblock, it's a building block. We're supposed to take it and step up onto it and into the life that God is calling us to. Now, all of a sudden, the more opportunities, the more challenges that you come across in daily life actually give you more opportunities to grow. So with this idea, if we look at the pursuit of comfort, which we talked about in another video, right? How dangerous comfort can be, but how it's so prevalent in our society, right? Just smooth out your life. If we continue to do that, you got to see that you're putting yourself in a bubble, and then something's going to happen, like the pandemic or something like that, and all of a sudden something that's unexpected, completely out of your control, but you've become very fragile because you smoothed out and made your life comfortable. We weren't growing anymore. If you find yourself in that situation, then all of a sudden you're very fragile and you might break under a stress that wouldn't normally break you. So we actually want to continue to put ourselves in situations that challenge us. I did Toastmasters for a number of years because I love this idea of being able to speak in front of people, but it still makes me very uncomfortable. It was an incredible experience, and still so much to learn. It still makes me nervous to talk in front of people. I still get nervous when I make these videos, but I'm putting myself through it to grow. It's a mildly stressful situation that I know is growing something that's going to allow me to continue to sow into you and to sow into other people. And I know that that's a part of who God is calling me to be and to become. So if I wanted to just smooth out my life, I'd take out the challenge, but that's not helping me. That's not going to help you. John Maxwell's got this book where he says, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. It's not sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Because when you lose, if you can take it and learn from it, it becomes so much more. Deciding to become anti-fragile is a decision that you actually get to make before the stress comes into your life. We're going to look at those different things as building blocks. We're going to look at them as a possibility for growth. But we need to make that decision before the stress comes into our life. So what I would encourage you today is to take the word anti-fragile, put it on a post-it, put it beside your computer, put it on the back of your phone, whatever it is, look at it for a week and try and go, is this a part of the identity that I think God's calling me to be, so that I become stronger, better equipped, with more capacity to be able to serve God's kingdom, to be able to do what he's calling me to do, to be able to live out the purpose that he's calling me to. Because I think it's exactly what you're going to end up thinking once you kind of think about this word a little bit more. Have an absolutely awesome rest of your day, and I look forward to continuing this discussion with you again next week.